Hey guys, how you going? Welcome to the Positive Experience podcast, where we look at the good, the bad and the ugly in living your best life. Today's segment is called In the Trenches, where we look behind the scenes at what's happening in the clinic.
Hey guys, it's a team here from ProPhysio Plus. This is our first roundtable for the year. Hope everyone has a great year and hopefully COVID doesn't shut us down too much this year. So this roundtable, we're going to be discussing the theme of the month, which is women's health. So I actually did a blog post which is going to be posted very soon. It's a pretty big topic that I see all the time. Everywhere I go or I get asked this question, will lifting heavy weights make me bulky? And especially in the women's section, you get asked that question quite a bit. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that idea and what your thoughts are on it, boys.
Look, I think that is a common complaint. Like women are often afraid of looking a certain way, like being too muscular or being too bulky. And, you know, from my perspective, being a longevity physio, your muscle is the biggest organ that you have, and it serves a lot of it gives you a lot of help for your longevity. So as we get older and age, sarcopenia is a fancy word, but that can really give you problems as you hit middle and later stages in your life, which is completely preventable. So resistance, strength training, stuff in the gym or things you can do at home has my full support. Absolutely. What are your thoughts, Con?
From my experience going to the gym, I find that women don't tend to lift heavy weights and they focus on technique. So I tend to find actually in many cases their form is better. So, I mean, these are gyms that I've frequented. So I don't really see that as a problem because I don't see them focusing on heavy weights, low reps. It's more like endurance and sort of cardiovascular fitness / strength. So I don't really see that as an issue in terms of observing it in practice, in real life situation, even though it might be a concern.
Yeah, gotcha. I think there's a stigma or a mentality that sort of divides the sexes. Like blokes don't mind getting in there and bashing and crashing weights. And that could be off-putting maybe for our female, for the friendlier sex, you know? So what's your perspective, Avi? What's your thoughts?
Cotton raised a very valid point that you see most guys in the gym when they get in, they just want to lift that heavy weight. Doesn't matter how their technique looks, they just want the weight to go up. Whereas Con mentioned the women are a little bit more focused on the technique, and I 100% agree with that. Technique should weigh over what kind of weight you're lifting, because how I see it is your body internally doesn't actually know what kind of weight it's moving. It's just more so the brain. But the rest of the muscles don't actually know it's 100 kilos or 10 kilos. They can't tell the difference. If the time under tension is a lot better with the 10 kilos, you're going to get more results. So that's why if you get the technique right, you'll notice that the weight will go up. And to answer the question of what I asked myself, it's pretty much the foods you're eating. So if you're in a more of a surplus and you're eating too much calories, so excess calories, obviously you're going to get a bit too bulky. But at the same time, if you're in a bit of a deficit, so you're eating lower calories than what you maintain the same weight and you're lifting heavy weights, you're probably going to get the better results a lot quicker than doing like 2-hour cardios or 15, 20 rep sets. And that's what the research states as well. And you can check out my blog post that talks about that as well.
Yeah, check it out. I think that's a big interest of all of us here at ProPhysio Plus is that holistic view on your health. You know, yes, we do really look at and think about thoughtfully what we choose to put on our plates and what our goals are. So if ladies are looking at, say, putting on weight or losing weight and you're thinking mostly about exercise, lifting weights or running on a treadmill, but then you're not having a conversation about your food plan, your nutrition plan, that's pretty much, I think, what Avi's talking about. You know, put a lot of focus there, because if you're feeling like the bulk is an issue, or you know how it may appeal in terms of how may you look in terms of aesthetics, it may not be the lifting or the running. There's other things you may have to consider. So was that your point there, Avi?
Yeah, that was pretty much the point. Summed it up really well. Just talking about the calories. So if you lift heavy weights, it's actually going to get better results, and you actually burn more fat and increase the metabolism.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks for that. So in your blog post, Con, that's due to be posted shortly too, could you give us a summary, or in your experience, your vast experience working as a physiotherapist for many, many years, what's a common women's health, ladies' health situation that crops up that you'd like to discuss?
I talked about osteoporosis because it's much more represented in women than men. In Australia, according to, I think, the latest Australian Health Survey, the prevalence of osteoporosis, say in the population over 50, was around 23% of women and 6% of men. So that's really 4 times more represented. However, you go back a little bit, there's a big percentage of women that have a condition called osteopenia, which basically means low density bone that may develop into osteoporosis. So we have to be really sort of, concerned about long-term health here. And I sort of spoke about the fact that women genetically are not built like men. So their bone density tends to be genetically much less dense. And also post-menopause, because of the decrease in estrogen, you don't stimulate calcium uptake. And you go into that, large percentage of women may choose to have kids, family. So there's a big social change in activity. And what I find is there's 3 factors, that were mentioned. You mentioned the first one, Avi, and you too, Leki, about diet, calcium uptake. The second one's vitamin D, getting enough sun. And the third, where physios can help, is exercise, but appropriate exercise for the person's body type and stage in their life. What I find is a lot of women, they may have an extended period where they're not exercising, and psychologically they can't get away from how they were before. And that's an important point, is to actually modify activity instead of going back into your sort of, say, pause in terms of exercise period in your life.
Awesome. How would you describe osteoporosis, Avi, like in your experience and what you've come across? How would you explain it to a lay person?
Pretty much saying that the bones sort of become brittle and weak over the time. So when they have a fall, or like simple stresses as just bending over or coughing, can cause fractures. And as like Con was touching on, it's usually due to the calcium uptake and the particular types of food. So as he said, there's a lot of things like that that causes issues. So especially when you're doing some exercise and you're just doing a simple jump squat, as a lot of people say, it's a pretty easy exercise, but for those kind of women, that could cause a simple fracture and they can't really do anything and they're in more pain. So that's why the correct prescription is very important, especially for ladies that have OP.
Yeah. So, with Avi's blog post here, a lot of it was focused on, strength training, pointing towards diet, nutrition. Awesome. Con's talking about osteoporosis, and you're looking at nutrition as a big part of what's causing these different pathways, hormonal pathways, that can start to present as a bony pathology. So if you look at the word osteoporosis, osteo means bone, and porosis, the root word is porous. So if you think of something holy, like holes, the way I describe it to people is, if you think of the holy cheese, that's what your bones look like when it's not quite right. Because as Avi was saying, the brittle bone comes from the bones being more porous than they should be. And that's where the brittleness comes in. And a lot of that comes in from your metabolic health, which is something that happens over time. And as Con is saying, if there's a genetic predisposition, and if you're female versus male, males also suffer from osteoporosis. There's a higher incidence in females. We just got to be mindful of that. What can help? Absolutely. What's on your plate? We're looking at strengthening work and appropriate exercise prescription. And then you're looking at appropriate vitamins and other things to help promote your health. Okay. So it is a big topic. And, to transition now into what I wrote about in the month of January is on abdominal separation. So I've got to give it up to the mamas because you guys do a lot of heavy work pushing kids into the world if you choose to. And a lot of that effort can come up with injuries or conditions as a result of having babies. Some of it may be pelvic floor issues. So you have maybe episodes of incontinence, for example. Abdominal separation is a situation where the stretching of connective tissue starts to give you problems. And if it's quite bad enough, you can start to prolapse or have this tenting or pitching in your belly. Now, the measurement of abdominal separation is in finger spaces, and the largest number of fingers in terms of how much abdominal separation there is 17. So if you go from like the top of your rib cage, like your sternum, all the way down and count 17 fingers, that's a massive amount of separation. So if you just imagine your trunk is wrapped with layers and layers of glad wrap, okay, and then you're having this baby and then it's putting pressure and extending, stretching the connective tissue. This linea alba is this connective tissue, this glad wrap that holds your six-pack muscles together. Okay, if there's a lot of pressure, it stretches. Okay, and what happens is when you have baby, you still have that stretching and distension. And if you don't allow the muscles to strengthen, and there's 3 layers, which I outlined in my blog post, then what will happen is that connective tissue will stay haphazard and slack, which is what can give you a lot of weakness. And if you're increasing your stomach pressure, bending and lifting baby, for example, shifting furniture around the house, things that you do to maintain your household, and eventually when you get back to work, can create problems which can be long-standing. So just a bit of a plug for a program that we're pushing out called Mamas on Fire. A lot of women have silently suffered with abdominal separation. They just thought it's, oh, I've had a baby, I'm due to have some problems. And they didn't know that there's exercises that they can do as early as week 6, gently, which can help with their connective tissue recovery, help with their abdominal muscle strengthening work. So your back brace muscles, the muscles at the front, your side, and at the back. A lot of great work pointed to me from Avi at Physiotechnician and pointed me towards Dr. Andrew Locke and also Dr. Stuart McGill. So, it's just been awesome. It's kind of corroborated my experience and has, promoted a framework for me to operate in. So that's allowed me to help a lot of women in this very early stage of Mamas on Fire. So just check the link in our bio. It'll take you straight to that page if you're a mama and you're interested in seeing what we're up to. But in terms of our roundtable today, I think it was a great discussion in, new mamas' health, in terms of having babies and abdominal separation, in terms of ladies who are heading towards osteoporosis and Con's shining the light on that chronic condition. And then Avi's also talking about basically long-term health. You can't be strong enough. There's nothing wrong with being strong. And there's a mismatch between strong and bulky. That's 2 separate conversations, which is what Avi's trying to talk about there. So we thank you for joining us for our roundtable today. I just wanted to allow the fellas to go through any last points on our women's health roundtable. So Avi, did you have any last thoughts, comments?
No, I think we covered quite a couple of good topics there. So I'll pass it over to Con.
I just think it's something that both you touched earlier. A holistic approach is the healthiest, where you go to the service, to your doctor, to your physio, to your dietitian, all these people that are there to help you, and you don't isolate these things, you incorporate them into your overall health, so physical as well as mental health being. And I think we need to take that approach, actually. That's all.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for your honest words, guys. And, here we talk about a health spectrum. We talk about it all the time, where on one end you have sickness and wellness. And regardless of where you sit on that health spectrum, we all want to get healthier. Okay, so big shout out to the ladies out there. You guys do a lot of hijacker work if you're a mother, and we all want to be healthier, heading towards wellness. So before we run away, I just want to share my screen. Where you can find us is www.prophysioplus.com.au. That's Mike's rig there. Just he sends his apologies. Long story. He's getting married soon. I'm sure he'll update us at our next roundtable. And from our website here, just go to blog, and then this is where we're pointing you towards our resources. So feel free to head over and have a read. You'll see that Con and Avi's blog post will be dropping shortly. And there's my piece on abdominal separation. If you want to click to the side here, it'll take you to our Facebook page and our Instagram page. So if you jump on Instagram, there's a lot of really good short videos that is housed in our IGTV. There's Avi's mugshot, and you can see him going through some great exercises of what you guys can implement today. Mike's been doing a lot of running. He's got some great tips for runners, and there's some great information on our Instagram page too. If you want even more information, just click on the link within the bio, and it takes you to a few other places like our Performance Center, where you can go into a deeper dive on how your parts and pieces move. It's based in Truganina. Feel free to click on that. More information. This is where our blog posts are. If you're interested on our Mamas on Fire program, click here. And last little ask, if you know anyone that's looking to join a really active, energetic team, we're looking at hiring some really good team members. So if you know anyone, if your local physio is thinking about more opportunities, we're open to talking. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in for our roundtable. We hope to help you. And as always, making health simple. See you guys.